Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the topic that who is a war criminal and how any individual is declared as a war criminal both on the national level as well as on the international level. So first of all, if you try to understand the reason why we are discussing this particular topic is because recently the President Joe Biden of United States has flatly on the Wednesday called Russian President Vladimir Putin as a war criminal. The reason why he said or declared him as war criminal is because of the continuous onslaught by the Russian army, where in the war at Ukraine, continuously the civilian targets are being targeted, and especially we have the recent incidences of attack on the hospitals and the maternity ward that have caused a lot of furor across the different leaders of different nations. However, if you look at technically the war criminal or war crime, it's something which can be only understood by looking at the set definition and processes, and based on this we can determine any person as a war criminal or the act as war crime. So first of all, who can be declared as a war criminal? So as per the international norms, rules and regulation, anyone who violates a set of rules that is adopted by world leaders, which are commonly called as law of armed conflict. That means these are the laws which govern any kind of armed conflict or war, that there are certain limitations that are put on the countries. So basically the main, we can say, text which determines the war crimes and determines the set of rules and laws was the Geneva Convention, which were actually signed after World War II, and later on more protocols were added in the same Geneva Conventions. The main aim of such convention and such laws are to protect the civilians, especially like medical professional doctors who are looking after the injured person in the war and the conflict. We also have nurses, we have wounded troops that cannot take part in war anymore, as well as the prisoners of war. There are certain limitations which a country has to adhere to while treating or while dealing with such kind of people. Also, these rules and laws very clearly specifies that who can be targeted during the war and with what kind of weapons a country can wage a war. And if you look at the convention, it clearly says that certain kind of weapons, which are also commonly known as weapons of mass destruction, like biological weapons and chemical weapons, they are strictly prohibited to be used in a war. Now let us try to understand that what kind of activities or actions can make someone a war criminal. So first of all, if any individual is participating in a willful killing and extensive destruction and appropriation of property which cannot be justified as a military objective or which cannot be justified as a military necessity, then it can be declared as a war crime. Similarly, any deliberate targeting of civilian civilian population or civilian inhabitations using disproportionate amount of force can be a kind of war crime. And if we look at the definition given by the International Criminal Code, then it says a widespread activity or systematic attack that directed or is directed against any civilian population that can come under the category of war crime. So on which of these grounds can President Vladimir Putin of Russia can be targeted or can be declared as a war criminal? So there is an international law that is referred as command responsibility. So what is command responsibility? Command responsibility basically says that as a commander of the armed forces of any country, that person, as in the case of Russia, it is the President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin himself is the commander-in-chief of the Russian military. So any action that is resulting into the civilian casualty or civilian death by the Russian armed forces, the Vladimir Putin can be held directly responsible for this if, despite knowing the fact that civilians are being targeted or civilian inhabitation or maternity hospitals and such kind of places are being targeted, and despite knowing that, if he is not taking any actions or not taking any decision to prevent such actions, then he can be put under a category of war criminals. That is the command responsibility. So now why Russia is being treated as Russia's action in Ukraine is being treated as war crimes? So we have multiple reasons, but three are the major reasons. The first is the use of cluster bomb or munitions. As NATO's spokesperson has clearly said that there is certain evidences that Russia is targeting Ukrainian cities by cluster bombs or munitions. The problem with cluster bombs and munitions are that they can very easily, instead of, even if you are targeting any military installations, it can easily cause damage and death of the civilian population because of their widespread effect. Second, as per the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, the attack on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant can also be considered as a war crime act because if any damage happens to nuclear power plant, there can be radiation leakage that can actually cause damage not only to the people of Ukraine but also the people and citizens of the nearby countries. Similarly, if you look at the US President Joe Biden's statement, he has declared Russian president as a war criminal because of the continuous targeting of the installations like hospitals, maternity ward, especially in the Mariupol city of the Ukraine. That can also be considered as an act of war crime. So these are the acts on the basis of which we can consider, or the people around the world are considering actions of Russia as a war crime. So now the question comes that what are the steps that international community can take to address this particular issue? So to reach to the justice, we have 4 paths. The first path is regarding the International Criminal Court, where it has been clearly mandated to tackle the cases of war crimes. Second is United Nations, where United Nations can separately, we can say, set up a military court or military tribunal to investigate into the cases of war crime. Third is a tribunal court that is actually set up by countries or group of countries. For example, NATO member states or the European Union member state can separately set up a tribunal or a court to investigate and look into the matters of the war crimes of Russia and can take decisions accordingly. And the last is also the national law, under which the different nations, as per their own law, can investigate and take decisions in the matters of war crime. For example, Germany, as per its own constitutional law, has already started the investigation into the Russian acts in the Ukraine. Similarly, United States Department of Justice has also started to look into this matter, because that is the mandate of United States Department of Justice, where any person who is not even national of US can be actually investigated into if he has conducted certain genocides or war crimes. So the question comes that even if Vladimir Putin is declared as a war criminal, how can he be tried, or actually can he be tried? So first of all, the problem lies in the fact that even if International Criminal Court during its investigation declared Russian president as a war criminal, the problem is that Russia and US, both countries, do not recognize the mandate and power of the ICC. So they cannot, or they have liberty to not go into this court to take, we can say, to take participate in the proceedings of ICC. Second is possibility if United States itself declared Russian President Vladimir Putin as a war criminal by a separate court or tribunal that has been established under its mandate, then that is other option. And third option, as I discussed, it is the consortium of the concerned nations, whether it is European Union or North American nations, say Canada, USA or Australia. They all can come together and set up a military tribunal and can try to punish or try to proceed the Russian President Vladimir Putin. But again, the problem lies that as long as the President Vladimir Putin is the President of Russian Federation, he can withhold his, he can actually decide not to go, not to take part in proceedings, or even can cause or does not care about whatever the judgment of these courts are. The only possible way how he can be tried as a war criminal in the future is if some other person come into power in Russia, and then at that time Russian forces or Russian military can themselves take Putin under, they can say, arrest President Putin, and then they can take him to the any of these courts. However, that is very unlikely scenario. But this is mostly largely a symbolic gesture that the world is united and they are saying that the actions of Russia and Ukraine is not as per the mandates or as per the international rules and international humanitarian laws. So obviously, if you try to understand, is it the first time in the history that this kind of thing is being done, or has it been done before? So obviously, the most famous is the Nuremberg trials, where after the World War II, all the this German Nazi political members, as well as security members, as well as the sympathizers of Nazi parties, they were tried under the Nuremberg trials and they were arrested, put into prison. Recently, when the Yugoslavia was a former group of countries, in 1991, the Slobodan Milosevic was involved in a large-scale attack on the civilian population of the former Yugoslavian countries, like especially Bosnia and Herzegovina. So he was also tried, but however, he died before the punishment could be given to him. Similarly, we have the Charles Taylor of Liberia. He was also prosecuted as a war criminal due to his acts of genocide on the nearby country and nearby neighboring countries. And the first national president to be persecuted as a war criminal was Hissene Habre of Chad Republic, that is a country in Africa. So these are the four major cases in which the national leaders have been tried as a war criminal, and they have been punished and sent to prison also. So what is being done now as far as the Russia-Ukraine case is considered? So almost 40 countries across the world have submitted a application, and on the basis of this application, International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor Karim Khan has announced on 2nd of March that they are going to launch an investigation into the possible war crimes that is being committed or has been committed in Ukraine by the Russia. Depending on this investigation and the result of this investigation, ICC will make its decision. But again, the problem lies in the same fact that Russia does not recognize the authority and mandate of ICC. So how they will deal with this particular problems? So anyway, that is all about the war crimes, war criminals, and the associated, we can say, the mechanism to punish the war criminals. I hope you understand about this particular topic. We'll come again soon with an interesting topic. Till then, take care. Thank you very much.